Stories. They captivate us. They shape how we see the world and even how we see ourselves. And whether we find a story in a book, a movie, or a post on social media, there's something captivating about a story that resonates with us. In some ways, we don't just like a good story, we are a story. What stories do you remember most? The ones that stayed with you, the ones that shaped how you see the world.
Okay, now I'm not sure where we should be going, but somewhere.
It's gonna get really cold soon, huh?
It always does out here. But, you know, just keep your head down and work hard. Someone's coming in. Good morning, Donald. This is Jose.
Welcome to paradise.
Hello, sir.
We'll see if you last the week.
Friendly.
I told you, right? I told you that I can't do that for you. Just a second, just a second. Miss Alice, did someone come to help you?
Good morning, Mrs. Nasser. Not really.
Ah. Oh, there he is. Good morning, Mr. Bouchard. Excuse me.
Is this the young man I've heard so much about?
This is the one.
Jose, welcome to our humble farm.
Thank you, sir.
Marcel. Marcel, this is the gentleman in need of our care.
Come
It's a modest room, ma'am, but it's the best we can offer right now. Would you take Jose to his room, please?
I'll be in touch, Jose.
Thank you, Mrs. Ellis.
You know you can legally hire him. He has a temporary work permit while we wait for a final.
Donald is managing the farm right now. He'll take care of everything. What's the story again?
Oh, he was scammed on a fake job posting. Paid a few $1,000s to a fake work agency. Incredibly, he still got a valid visa. Well, I must be going down here.
Yeah, sure. You and Carter should come over sometime.
Word is you're in a rough spot.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience running a farm.
This one's yours. Ain't fit for people, but it's good enough for Pierre's horse. It's good enough for you. Restroom's that way.
I remember one of the first books I ever read cover to cover. The book was Moby Dick by American author Herman Melville. And I know what you're thinking. Why would any teenager read that dense 19th century novel about a whale? Well, here's the thing. It's not really about a whale. It's about Captain Ahab, a man so consumed by revenge that he's willing to destroy himself and everyone around him, chasing the creature that took his leg. It's about obsession. It's about what drives us, about the questions every teenager wrestles with, like, what am I living for? What am I pursuing? And what happens when that pursuit consumes everything, including yourself? Something interesting about that book is when Herman Melville published it in 1851, it was considered a commercial failure. Critics dismissed it. It didn't sell very well, and Melville died in 1891 believing he'd failed as a writer. Then 70 years later, in the 1920s, it was rediscovered, and suddenly scholars saw it as a masterpiece of literature. Now it's considered one of the greatest novels ever written. What changed? Was it the book? Was it culture? You know, sometimes the greatest stories just need a second look, not because they changed, but because we do. Mark Turner, a scholar who spent his career studying how humans process information, said this: narrative imagining, story, is the fundamental instrument of thought. What he's saying is that as humans, we are wired to think of everything through the lens of stories. For example, when you're trying to make a decision about something, you're imagining competing stories about where each path leads. When you're planning how to get from where you are to where you want to be, you're building a narrative filled with opportunities. Even when you're trying to explain why something happened, you share it through a story. And that matters because we absorb narratives about important things all the time. And sometimes we've been telling a story or believing one for so long that we don't even question it anymore. But what if there's a story you've overlooked? One that's been there all along, waiting for a second look. Maybe you dismissed it before. Maybe you thought it was outdated, irrelevant, or just not for you. What if, like the scholars in the 1920s who finally saw the brilliance of Moby Dick, you're finally ready to see what you've missed before?
Hey, come on. Grab some square bales. Go.
So, how is it on the farm?
Like horses here. So what next, pretty boy?
He's nothing here. Don't give this money grabber more reasons he wants to sue.
Thought they'd hired you.
Me too.
Don't drag me into trouble, okay?
Don't let Pierre see. Everybody here brings their own lunch. I can't give food from the kitchen to people.
Thank you, man.
I don't know what brought you here, but focus on today. Tomorrow will figure itself out.
Examples of the stories we absorb sound something like this. You are what you do. You are what others think of you. You are the sum of your experiences, what you own, who your friends are, or even your highlight reel on social media. And we're tempted to believe it. And so we think that if we could only get a better career, a better relationship, a house, vacation, whatever it is, we can influence more people to like our story. But then something strange happens. Sometimes we get what we want, and we still feel like something's missing. We stand in the middle of everything we've accomplished and wonder, why don't I feel the way I thought I would once I got everything that I wanted? And in that emptiness, it's easy to think something's wrong with us. Like we're just being ungrateful or never satisfied. But what if that emptiness isn't a flaw? What if it's a signal indicating something deeper? What if your experiences tell you that the story you've been chasing isn't who you really were meant to be? 2,000 years ago, two men were walking away from Jerusalem. They were devastated. They were confused. Their entire story just collapsed. They believed in a different narrative, one about hope, about a kingdom that would change everything. But their leader was dead, executed, and now nothing made sense anymore. As these two men walked on a dusty road leading away from the city, a stranger joined them on the road. They didn't recognize him at first, but he asked a simple question. He asked, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk along?" Well, they stopped short, sadness written across their faces, and then one of them, Cleopas, replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened there the last few days." "What things?" Jesus asked. And then they just poured it all out. Their confusion, their shattered hopes, how Jesus of Nazareth had been a prophet who performed powerful miracles, how they'd hoped that he was the Messiah who would rescue Israel from Roman oppression and set up an everlasting kingdom as the prophecies foretold. How he'd been crucified 3 days ago. How some women from their group had actually gone to the tomb that morning and found it empty, claiming angels told them he was alive. And then the stranger said something unexpected to them. He said, "You foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in the scriptures. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory?" And then, starting with Moses and going through all the prophets, he explained what all the scriptures said about himself. Later, when they finally realized who the stranger was, that it was Jesus himself, risen from the dead, they said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us?" And now you might be thinking, okay, that's a nice story, but how do I know any of it's true? I mean, how do I know the Bible, where the story is recorded, isn't just ancient mythology disguised as history? And you know what? That's a fair question. Let's look at what we actually know. First, the Bible isn't just one book. It's actually a library of 66 books written by more than 40 different authors across 3 continents over the span of 1,500 years. Shepherds, kings, fishermen, doctors, tax collectors, people from completely different cultures and backgrounds, writing in different languages, living in different time periods, and yet somehow they all tell one continuous story, one thread running from beginning to end. And there's more. The historical reliability of the New Testament documents surpass every other ancient text we trust without question. As ancient New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman says, we have far more manuscripts of the New Testament than of any other book from the ancient world. And beyond the manuscripts, archaeology continues to confirm the Bible's historical claims. Places that many once said never existed have been excavated and verified. Names of rulers, locations of cities, cultural practices, again and again, the Bible's details check out. But here's what actually convinced those 2 men on the road to Emmaus. It wasn't just the evidence, it was the coherence. When Jesus showed them how the entire story just fit together, how everything in the scriptures pointed toward him. Something deeper than logic kicked in. Their hearts burned, it says. It's that same feeling you get when you know deep down something's true and beautiful. Because truth, when you finally see it, doesn't just convince your mind, it awakens something inside of you. The Bible itself tells us why it exists. It says, such things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us. And the scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently for God's promises to be fulfilled. Everything written in the past, all of it, is one story. And that story has a purpose: to give us hope. Now, whether you realize it or not, you're living inside of a narrative right now. You tell yourself a story about who you are every single day. And maybe because of your experiences, you believe a narrative which says, I'm not enough, I'm too broken, I've made way too many mistakes. And if people really knew me, they'd leave. Or maybe it's something different. Maybe it's, you know what, I've got this all figured out. I don't need anyone. I'm in control. Both of these are stories. Both shape how you see yourself and how you relate to others. But what if both stories are actually incomplete? What if there's a larger story, one that's been running beneath everything else, that says something different? A story that says, listen, you were made on purpose. You matter. You're seen. You're worth fighting for. And no matter how far you've wandered or how broken things may feel, there's hope.
You must be the new guy. I didn't think we got imports out here. Must be special.
I'm just another word.
I love the accent. Sounds so cool.
The world offers us a story about fulfillment, and you've heard it. We all have. It says, find yourself, follow your passions, do what makes you happy, and maybe, just maybe, if you make enough money and have all the right friends, you will finally feel whole. It sounds good. It even sounds empowering, but here's what that story doesn't tell you. It has no ending. There's always something else to chase, always another version of yourself to become. The finish line keeps moving. And so you run faster, but never feel like you've arrived. Sadly, some narratives aren't reliable, and they don't tell us the truth about who we are and even who God of the Bible really is. I remember having a conversation with Herb. He was telling me about his first memory of his parents, that it was of them arguing in the kitchen when he was only 4 years old. Then came the divorce. He watched his mom work 2 jobs, sacrificing everything, but he never saw his dad. No birthday cards, no football games, no visits, nothing. Long story short, years later, Herb tracked down his dad and visited him with his wife. During the visit, his wife asked the question that Herb never thought she'd ask. Mr. Montgomery, I'd like to know why you didn't visit your son more often when he was a little boy. The conversation got awkward, but when his dad showed him a box full of child support checks, letters, gifts he tried to send, all returned, all blocked, Herb finally understood it was his mom that prevented his father from connecting with him. Both of them wept as they held each other for the first time since he was 4. I remember Herb telling me that for the first time, I found myself in the embrace of the father I had always wished I had. And for the first time, I loved my dad. The story Herb believed about his dad shaped his entire life. And it wasn't even true. But how many of us are doing the exact same thing? How many of us maybe need to have a second look at the greatest story ever told, the one found in the pages of the Bible? In this story, you're not alone. You're loved. You're not an accident. You're someone worth dying for, and someone did. The emptiness you feel is not a flaw, it's evidence. Evidence that you were made for a connection with something beyond yourself, with someone who knows you completely and hasn't turned away. And that longing you feel for meaning, for purpose, for love is a compass that's pointing you home. As author C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." The world's story promises freedom, but it doesn't deliver. And that's where the biblical narrative offers something different. When you start living inside this narrative, everything changes. Not because life suddenly gets easier, not because all your problems disappear, but because you finally know what your life is for. You stop performing for approval and start living from love. You stop chasing fulfillment in things that were never designed to fulfill you. This is what the biblical story offers. Not religion, not a list of rules to follow, but a connection with someone who is writing a better story for your life.
Dad says you're my problem now.
I mean, I work hard. I promise. I have a lot of experience running a farm. Actually ran one twice.
75% of minimum, no benefits, contractor status, take it or leave it.
I don't think you understand.
I don't think you understand, I don't care.
Okay, I'll take it, but only if Edna can feed me from the kitchen.
Yeah, fine. Whatever. Hey, babe.
Have you tried moving it up?
No.
No, it's not.
Just
Okay. We got it.
Let me help.
I think you know more than the rest of us, eh? How about her?
You get started with the boss?
Yes. He made me your boss.
Okay. Let's see what you got, rookie. Oh.
It's like the new boss got some moves.
You know, I worked on a farm twice the size of this one.
Here's my question for you. What story are you living in right now? Not the one you post about, the real story you tell yourself when no one else is listening. Here's one practical step you can take. Pay attention to the story you're telling yourself. Ask, where did I learn that story? Is it even true? Sometimes the first step toward discovering a better story is simply noticing the one you're already living in. If you want to explore this further, we've created an interactive guide to help you understand what the Bible is and how to read it in a way that makes sense. Just follow the link in this video. Remember what happened to the Moby Dick novel? How it sat overlooked for 70 years until people were finally ready to see what had been there all along? What if the biblical narrative is like that for you? What if it's been waiting for you to take a second look? This is your invitation to discover a different story, a better story about someone who's inviting you to discover the hope found in the pages of his letter to you.
Not bad for a first day. Just don't get on Donald's bad side.
Too late.
Well, he just barks. Pierre's the one who bites.
Thank you, man.
Remember, son, trouble comes in skirts sometimes. Be careful. Good night, Jose.
God, give me the strength. Just enough to face tomorrow.
Some of the most compelling stories aren't found in books or movies. They're actually lived out by people in your community, Canadians who have faced the same struggles you have. Hope Channel Canada exists to share the good news that Jesus is inviting them into a better story. But we can't do this alone. And that's why I'm asking you to become an agent of hope. When you become an agent of hope, you're helping us reach people with the life-changing message of hope that there is a better story for them. We need your prayers. We need you to share this content with your friends, and we need your financial support. Visit the link on your screen to partner with Hope Channel Canada and the mission of spreading hope across Canada. God bless, and thank you for your support.